Hi folks. Help, my tomato plants have turned blue. If you look here, you can see the leaves and part of the stems are like a bluish purplish blue-green color. Some are more affected than others. I've never had this happen to me before, so I wondered what in the world's going on. It's way too early for late blight. Late blight sometimes is a color, but usually that's fuzzy on the leaves too, so I didn't think it could be that. Well, I did some research online, and apparently there are a few different reasons that this can happen to tomato plants. Now, my problem with these is I got them Mother's Day weekend at a sale at a greenhouse, which I usually do every year. But that's way too early where I live to put them out because of the danger of frost. So I had to wait a few weeks to get them out, which I usually do. I usually have everything out the last week of May. But because the other things that were going on that I got tied up with, I'm about 2 weeks late, or at least a week and a half late, getting them in the ground. So they sat in the, the planting containers longer than they should have. Now I had them outside, I watered them and so on, but I'm sure they got a bit more root bound during that time. If it was cold, I'd bring them in at night. So I put them in the ground here, and I noticed they were kind of a bluish color then, and they've stayed that way. Now, what I found when I went online is this is a deficiency of some minerals. At least that's the normal reason for it. And it interferes with their photosynthesis, because obviously green is what attracts the light that they need to produce the food for the plant. And if this isn't untreated, it won't kill the plant, but it'll stunt the growth, and you won't get much you won't get much fruit. So, one of three possibilities, they said online, aside from cold soil, which that wasn't my problem, I know that. And I don't think it was some other weird disease. First of all, magnesium. If there's a lack of magnesium, that can affect it. If there's a lack of potassium, that can affect it. If there's a lack of phosphorus, that can affect it. All three of those can lead to what I have here. So in treating these, I'm not going to screw around and try one at a time, because the treatments can be applied together without it interfering with the plant, so to speak. So what I did was, the suggestions that I got online were, for potassium, wood ash. So I just got some from my bucket here from the, excuse me, I got a bug crawling on my neck. Bucket from my wood stove, left over from the winter, and I have some more in a barrel if I need more. The wood ash will give me some potassium, hopefully. The second thing is bone meal, and that will give me phosphorus. And the third thing, believe it or not, is just Epsom salts, and that will give me magnesium. So essentially, what the instructions on the bag were is just, and I've already done 6 plants so far. I'll try to do this one-handed. I'm sorry if this is a little bumpy, because I got the camera strap and the camera lens cap to deal with too here. Basically, all I'm doing, and I've never done this before, so I don't know if it's going to work, so please take this with a grain of salt. Hopefully I'll do a follow-up report to show you results either way. But all I'm doing is to stir the soil around the plant a bit. So I'm just making a little groove here, close enough to where the roots are that they'll be able to absorb it. And we are, I think, supposed to get some rain tonight, so that might help get it in quicker. Now, the bone meal, they were suggesting about 1 teaspoon per plant. So I'm just putting that right around there like that. The Epsom salt, there were a couple different ways. On the bag it says to just apply it to the soil. Online, one of the things they said you could do is mix up a solution. I think like was it a tablespoon per gallon or a tablespoon per half gallon of water, put it in a sprayer and just spray the leaves with it. If that would work better, I don't know, but since I'm doing the soil anyhow with the other stuff, I figured I'd just do this and see what happens. And the recommended dosage for this is about a tablespoon per plant. So a teaspoon of the bone meal, a tablespoon of the Epsom salts, and then I'm just going to scoop some of the wood ash in here just like that. I don't know if it needs to be measured or not. I mean, I already do scatter some of this in my garden during the winter time. In the course of a burning season here, I go through about I think I have 25-30 gallon can where I put it in, especially if the weather's bad and I can't get it to the fields if there's a lot of snow or what have you. So, and that's in the course of going through like 9 to 10 cords of firewood a year. So it's not a whole lot of ashes, but it's a considerable amount. 2 of those 25-30 gallon barrels, and I just scatter them over the garden, usually late winter, early spring. So there's already probably some of that on here, not enough, I'm sure. And then I'm just going to cover it over like this with a little bit of, sorry if you can't see this right, I'm trying to do this while looking into the screen that's being kind of covered by the sun. So I'm just kind of covering a little bit. I'm not trying to be perfect with it. The goal here is to have the rain wash it deeper down into the roots. So whether this will work, I don't know. This is what was suggested, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully within a week or so I'm going to see some nice beautiful green tomato plants here, and then I'll really start pushing the Miracle Grow for tomatoes or other fertilizer to get them going. Another experiment that's happening here this year that I haven't talked about yet, that I was going to as I get to it, and I will in more detail. You can see I've got a stake here and I've got stakes there, and if you notice I've got tomato plants pretty close together, more than you normally would. Well, I saw a YouTube video last winter of somebody who trellises his tomatoes, and basically he just puts stakes in the ground and gets, he called them hog panels. My local Tractor Supply, the size I want, they call cattle panels. They're about 50 inches wide and 16 feet long. And so what he basically does is just fastens them upright to the stakes and runs that in between. He said plant 2 rows close together, staggering them about 18 inches, so you have 3 feet apart on each row, and then 18, and then that will be enough. If you can train your plants to crawl up the paneling, it's like 5-inch squares in the panel, and I'll do a report on it when I get them. I want to get them soon and get them up before these tomatoes get too big. And I want to see if that'll save me a lot of space and a lot of waste if the tomatoes aren't on the ground. Those stupid cages just are not strong enough for a heavy-duty tomato like a big boy or a super steak or a beef steak. They just fall right over even if I have them staked with a wooden stake to help support them. So I'm thinking that maybe this will be better. These are 6-foot T stakes, the heavier ones. I've driven them into the ground at least 2 feet, so they're not going anywhere. I mean, they'll hold a lot of weight, you know what I'm saying? So, and I've got more to put in. That's a partial row of tomatoes there, so I'll probably put a stake in the middle. The 1/16 panel will cover that. And then the other thing that I'm doing here that's similar, I had a piece of old rebar frame here, rebar panel in my barn, so I'm going to use this. Instead of planting bush beans this year in the green beans, I planted pole beans. So I'm going to do the same thing there. I'm going to get another cattle panel or 2 out through that way to finish off the row, and then hopefully I can get the beans to crawl up and then just grow up on the, be trellised on the panels here and off the ground. Saves a lot of aggravation on my back, saves me from a lot of the bugs, even saves from some of the rabbits. So even though this is surrounded by chicken wire, I still occasionally get rabbits in here. So we'll see how that works, and I'll give you another report on that later. But I just wanted to show you what I was doing here with the tomato plants, since this is something new that I've never done before, but we'll see if it works. So thank you for watching. Thank you so much for the fact that we've crossed 500 subscribers on my channel. I would have never believed it, but thank you for supporting what we're doing here and the notion of living out in the country on a shoestring. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends if you haven't.